next speaker, we are so pleased to have him. This is RJ Ledesma, the chairman of Mercato Centrale. And if you are in Philippines, and I'll just describe it for people who aren't, but everybody knows these fantastically successful night food market operations that have been really instrumental in developing many different successful food concepts. So really an entrepreneurial fellow, founded other businesses, Enter PH, that helps companies establish operations in the country, also a big promoter of the franchise industry. So a really interesting and entrepreneurial fellow. Please welcome RJ Ledesma. So glad to have you, RJ.
Richard, thanks so much for having me here on the program. And, it's really been such a pleasure having been, I just have to say, after I won the award in the Asian CEO Forum, or the Asian CEO Awards, the SMEs, it's been really not just a great badge of honor, but it's really been helpful also in helping me promote the advocacies of the company. As they say in the Philippines, your network is your net worth. So the more that they realize that you're doing a good job and that you are credited for doing a good job, it helps me promote getting more entrepreneurs on board and online. So again, thank you so much to yourself and to Rebecca for the Asia CEO Awards. Feel free to interact with me as I do this presentation, Richard. I really love that if you've got some questions. But then, the overarching theme for what we're talking about is how will the paranoid survive? And I think one of the key things people must realize if you are paranoid about business is that one of the best ways to survive is if you do maintain what we call an entrepreneurial mindset, a perspective on how you see things, right? And it's not just the perspective, but really investing in that mindset as you look at what is the new normal and even what might be the next normal. Now, as I was sharing earlier on with Richard, now sometimes I'm in the position of I'm the guy doing what he does. I'm actually the moderator and speaker for many events. And at the same time, I am an accredited Go Negosyo mentor. And I've had a chance to interview many great entrepreneurs, which include people like Injap Sia of Double Dragon, Dennis Uy, of course, of Phoenix Petroleum, my own business partners, Jose Jomag Magsaysay, and of course, David Alberol of Multisys. And there's a common denominator which I see amongst many of these entrepreneurs, which have helped them survive and thrive amidst this new normal. And this is mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset amidst this paranoia. And I often say that when you have that entrepreneurial mindset, it's like you were mentioning earlier on. I'm somebody who's got 3 different companies which I'm running, because I think that entrepreneurship is like a muscle memory. You need to exercise it. But when you exercise your muscles, you often tear your muscles, right? But they knit back to become stronger and better at what you do. So that's the great thing about having this entrepreneurial mindset, particularly during this pandemic. You become more resourceful and adaptable. And here's the big thing, which I want to share with many people, especially those who aren't entrepreneurs or need to think like entrepreneurs in their own businesses or for the businesses that they work for. Your job as an entrepreneur is not to judge whether a situation is good or bad. Your job as an entrepreneur right now is to discover the opportunities in good and especially in bad situations, just like this one. Now, Richard, I'm sure you're familiar with all the different startup competitions which people hold, right, around the world, or pitching competitions where people ask for investors for their companies. And more often than not, I've seen many of them both as somebody who sits as a host or as a judge. And the biggest question often thrown to many entrepreneurs is this one, especially if you want your business to survive. They ask them, what problem is your business trying to solve? And that's the biggest thing we want to ask people every time when you're putting up a business. What business is your problem trying to solve? Especially during this time of when you need to be paranoid about your business. Because my biggest philosophy when it comes to doing business is this one, or entrepreneurship. That entrepreneurship is all about solving irritations. Your irritation is your inspiration for doing business. Because if I'm irritated by something, and Richard, you are also irritated by the same thing, that's where I make money. If I can solve that, that's where I make money. Now, your job as an entrepreneur basically is to turn all these irritations into what we call business opportunities. And oftentimes, and I think this is the best thing I can share with people, especially when you're paranoid about the current situation and trying to create new ways of doing business. Oftentimes, irritation, paranoia, desperation leads to innovation, and can help you create new business models. So let me just share with you some sources of business innovation to help your business survive during these times of the new normal. If you're paranoid about doing business, you might want to take a look at these different sources of business innovation. The first one is called leveraging asymmetric information. What does that just mean? It just means that if you know more about something than other people, that's where you make money. When you go to a stockbroker, he has more knowledge than you. He's got more asymmetrical knowledge about the stock market than you. So you give him money, you pay him money so that he can invest the money for you. The second one, if you're paranoid about doing business right now, you might want to look at borrowing business models from other industries and bring it into your own. How about bricks versus clicks coverage? This is another way also that we've done. If you're very paranoid right now, is when you start converting things from being from doing business physically to making sure you do business virtually. Digital first thinking just means that nowadays people no longer have to rely on a physical market. And this has happened during this time. If you're really paranoid, you build now a digital model of securing your customers. Now, lastly, there's what we call the market driving versus the market switching strategy, which I think is very key for many businesses. What do you mean by a market switching strategy? For many of us, if you're paranoid about business, right? Some people, the first thing that they rely on is a market switching strategy. Let me give you an example. Richard, you said earlier on that my business is Mercato Centrale, right? So my job is to open up a food market and my clients are food vendors. If I was to apply a market switching strategy, I would try to recruit vendors from other food markets to join me. That's a bit difficult because there's what we call friction costs. They don't want to leave their old organizers because maybe they're very established over there, or there's a fear of reprisal from these vendors. So they don't want to move to me. But what's a market driving strategy? A market driving strategy is when I create new food vendors, I create new entrepreneurs to join me. I don't rely on what's in the market. I create a new market. So I actually made a Mercato Academy where I train potential food entrepreneurs to become professional. And then the first place that they join is my market. That's a market driving strategy. Now, just very briefly, Mercato Central, my irritation when I created that one was that, I was so enamored by the night food markets of Asia when I would be sent there as a writer in Singapore, in Thailand, in Taiwan. And I said, why don't we have an equivalent of a night food market here in the Philippines where foreigners and locals could converge despite the fact that we have a large call center community who eat dinner or eat lunch at 11 p.m. I'm sure these people want an affordable home-cooked meal versus a convenience store meal at 11 p.m. at night. And that was one of the key inspirations for us to create the market. The second one was also the Mercato Centrale in Florence, Italy. That's where we got the name from, Mercato Centrale in Florence, where I honeymooned with my wife. We began the market as a morning market in November 2010, and we quickly pivoted the market and right before the pandemic, we were a thriving night food market with about 100 food vendors in 3 locations all over Metro Manila. And just very briefly, this is my proudest award. I won the Asia CEO Awards for SME Company of the Year. And I was also asked by Go Negosyo to be a partner for them to help incubate microfood entrepreneurs. But this is the thing, and this is the thing about paranoia, right? None of us can be complacent about doing business nowadays. We all need to be paranoid. And why is that? Because disruption in business is the new normal. And in particular, disruption is, how does when the usual way that things happen gets disrupted, right? Disruption in business just means that there is a disruptive innovation that occurs. And a disruptive innovation just means that a new market or value network will disrupt an old market and value network. And depending on which hat you're wearing or what side you're sitting on, these disruptive innovations tend to be produced by outsiders and entrepreneurs. They aren't done by the large companies. Now, the thing is, in this situation right now that we're experiencing in the new normal, previous to that one, we were being disrupted by technology, which disrupted our businesses. Right now, we are being disrupted by a pandemic. But guess what, Richard? The entrepreneurial mindset is still the same, whether you are being disrupted by technology or by the pandemic. In fact, in Chinese, there's a term that says Wei Ji. Wei Ji just means that, Wei, it says that there's crisis. That character means crisis. But Qi is opportunity. So in crisis, there is still an opportunity for you to create business. When you are paranoid, you actually are able to find ways to create new businesses. So what do you do? How do you react to disruption, especially right now? How do you react to disruption when your business is being disrupted by something like this pandemic? Well, simple. You just disrupt yourself again. You take a look at the new pain points people have of your business and try to address them. Or you look at other people's businesses and see what pain points people are experiencing of theirs right now, and you disrupt those businesses. So just to close things off, no, there's a point I often say, innovate or die, because you are problematic about the whole situation. So let me just give you the last example, and I'm very proud to talk about this one because he's with me on the panel as well, my friend and business partner, David Almirol. Now, in this crisis, Richard, we are an outdoor food market, like you said earlier on. And when the pandemic hit, we were one of the first places that were shut down because we were a place of mass gathering. So all of a sudden, I was desperate. I was paranoid. I didn't know what to do with the business. So we had to relook what our business was all about. And we realized that what our business was all about was, our why was that we were helping to incubate small food businesses. And we realized that our job was possible to be done brick and mortar, but it could also be done digitally. But now, if we were to do Mercato digitally, how could we still serve our small food businesses? How could we still continue our advocacy? How can we continue to incubate those businesses? We needed to create, in my mind, we had to create an app that would help serve all these small home kitchens, those that are not served currently right now by third-party delivery providers, right? We said, if we serve all these small food vendors, we're helping provide an advocacy for them to grow their business, and we still maintain what Mercato is all about, helping serve small food entrepreneurs. And the way we could do that is through digital transformation of the business. So we moved from just being right now a Mercato, which is a physical market, to become a Mercato app, where we are able to serve more food entrepreneurs and serve more customers at the same time. And very soon, you'll get to see the Mercato app. That's mercato.group. You can check that out online. And that's basically it. The more paranoid that you are, the more problems arise. And when you're able to address those problems, turn those irritations into business opportunities, that's where you will make money. Again, thank you so much to the Asia CEO Forum for this opportunity.